Hi, I'm actor Ian Champion, and welcome to History of Horror Cinema, my personal podcast tour of the good, bad, and the ugly of horror movie history. If you like what you hear, please don't forget to hit subscribe. The Mad Ghoul, 1943. A new sensation in horror, proclaimed the poster for 1943's The Mad Ghoul. A bold claim indeed, unless one counts frustration at the lack of any originality as a fresh feeling. This Universal B-movie functions as just a humdrum filler and wastes the talents of all concerned. Under director James P. Hogan, who had helmed some of the Bulldog Drummond sequels, and a lackluster script by Paul Gangelin and Brenda Weisberg, three notable actors from the studio's horror franchises wade through a by-the-numbers variant on the organ-harvesting mad scientist. George Zucco and Turhan Bey had previously been on the same side as the sinister high priest and apprentice in 1942's The Mummy's Tomb, while Evelyn Ankers had been agreeably adorning Universal horror films since Hold That Ghost in 1941. Here, Zucco applies his brand of academic evil with a nod to the Mummy films as Dr. Alfred Morris, a university chemistry professor who has discovered a toxic nerve gas created by ancient Mayans, rather than Egyptians this time. The gas has properties of diabolical power, which were harnessed to induce life in death in victims so that their hearts could be extracted as a gift to the gods. Morris recruits Ted Allison, David Bruce, to help him after a lecture. Ted is much more promising as a medical student than an actor, as we discover after Morris treats him to a dose of the gas formula he's been developing in secret. One whiff of the noxious agent and Ted is rendered into cadaverous sleepwalking enslavement. This behavior becomes turbocharged into hacky melodramatics in his love life subplot with Ankers, as his fiancée Isabel Lewis, a singer of gratingly twee operetta ballads. Sappy Ted doesn't know that Isabel no longer loves him. Moreover, he is also unaware that Morris has designs on her, and co-opts Ted's state to program him into doing Morris's bidding. This involves some nocturnal grave robbing, as the only way to keep Ted alive is with a regular supply of fresh hearts. While tormented Ted alternates between shuffling somnambulance and wakeful confusion, Morris makes a subtle move on Isabel, positioning himself, he thinks, as a suitor of greater experience for her. His inflated egotism makes no allowance for the fact that the vacuum in Isabel's feelings has already been filled by her pianist Eric Iverson. In the role, Turhan Bey is required to do nothing more than literally accompany Ankers as a young debonair suitor. When Morris realizes he has been eclipsed by the ivory-tinkling Egyptian, he adds Eric's murder into Ted's brainwashing. Meanwhile, the local newshounds begin barking as a connection becomes clear between the desecrations of recently buried bodies and their taking place in the same towns as Isabel's excruciating recitals. Robert Armstrong, whom we last saw as showman Carl Denham in King Kong, plays wise guy reporter McClure with the same much-needed energy in his scenes. Sadly, we don't get the benefit of him for long. In his intrepid pursuit of a scoop, he persuades the funeral director in the town of Cranston to let him pose as a body, but is throttled by Morris when he and Ted turn up. Rose Hobart, as McClure's hard-nosed colleague Della, delivers a less-than-sensitive tribute to him in the aftermath. He played a hunch there and lost. In a rare compos mentis moment, Ted shows his chivalrous side to Isabel, freeing her of any guilt or obligation toward his feelings, which is more concern than she deserves. The writers thought it credible that after Morris had zombified Ted, Isabel would buy his excuse that Ted had collapsed at work, and not bother to come and see him. The poor schmuck still has to contend, though, with sudden lucid bursts of existential fear. "What am I? Alive or dead? Man or beast?" he wails at Machiavellian Morris. The climax treats us to a third wince-inducing rendition by Isabel at the Opera House, during which weaponized Ted appears on stage with a gun. Instead of understandably shooting her, he attempts to assassinate innocent Eric, but is plugged by cops waiting in the audience. It only remains for Morris to get his comeuppance. Gassed by Ted, he scrabbles in the earth of the local cemetery, too late to perform a self-serving cardiectomy on his own. A repeat of earlier words from his hypnotized henchman resonates. It's all over, Doctor. There's nothing left of it now but you and me and death." Audiences would no doubt allow their memories to spade earth over the dull potboiler of the Mad Ghoul. Thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, please don't forget to hit subscribe.